I thought Florida was an anarcho-capitalist dystopia, and I'm hearing now that there's a lot of government intervention happening. So cute, my little Hasanito.
Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hearing all that and probably knew it already. Joins us live.
Oh, so there was a little bit of drama between I'm so tired of the feminist bullshit. Why is it a hurricane and not a himicane? True.
From the emergency management headquarters in Tallahassee. Governor, you've been there quite often. What's the greatest challenge with Milton as opposed to Helene or others you've had to deal with over the last 7 years?
Well, I think as Janice mentioned, this is tracking very close to that Tampa Bay area. I would note that anyone on the western peninsula of Florida, just wherever that eye wall is scheduled to go across now on these cones, that can shift. I think right now they have it just south of Tampa Bay in Manatee County. It could shift further north, and it could shift further south in terms of having the most immediate impacts. But that Tampa Bay area is very low-lying. Pinellas County, where I grew up, is surrounded by water. It's a peninsula. It is just vulnerable to storm surge generally. This is a storm that's going to be hitting sometime Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. The water's already going to be high with the tide. So that's a huge, huge concern. Now, it had gotten up to 180 mile an hour when it was going towards the Yucatan Peninsula and the Gulf of Mexico. That is an incredibly powerful storm. It has weakened since then. It may strengthen today. The forecasts are that it will make landfall weaker than it is today. Let's pray that that's the case. The surge is going to be a big enough problem, and hopefully the winds are manageable. Most of the buildings in Florida are going to be able to handle a Category 3 storm. So there's a lot going on. And oh, by the way, we just had a Category 4 storm impact a lot of people up the west coast of Florida. One of the issues that we saw in places like the Pinellas County beaches and Manatee County beaches was there was a lot of debris. And these local governments have to pick it up. They have contractors that do it, but it wasn't being done fast enough. So I did this weekend. I took all of our state agencies, any truck we had anywhere in the state who's involved in normal missions, we diverted it over to those barrier islands. We're doing a 24/7 debris mission. So we've been able in 48 hours with our state assets be able to do as much debris removal as any of the contractors who've been doing this for almost 2 weeks. Wow. We actually had to pry open one of the landfills in Pinellas County because it wasn't operating 24/7 as my executive order did, but we've made a big dent in that. And the issue is if you have this debris laying out, it can become projectiles, and then with the storm surge, it creates more damage. So it's very difficult. We're going to get hit basically 2 weeks on the dot from getting hit by Helene, but we felt it was important that we did that. We also have now close to 40,000 utility linemen in the state of Florida are en route. And remember, there's a lot of these workers that are still in Georgia and North Carolina.
He's like, I'm a bucket bunny. I love when the utility linemen come down my way. Hello. Ron DeSantis in the tank for the utility linemen, baby. Let's go. Gotta give them their sugar, man.
And on those places, we've had to bring them in all the way from California. So they're going to be ready to do the power restoration mission. And then we'll have 8,000 Florida National Guard when the storm hits. All our urban search and rescue, our Florida State Guard, Fish and Wildlife, all that will be there, ready to go. So we're prepared for this. This is not easy. I think it's been very taxing on our citizens to have to go through this. Just as you're starting to pick up the pieces from Helene, now you see another monster storm bearing down. But we'll get through this. I think the important thing today is you still have time to execute your plan. You do not have to get on the interstate and drive hundreds of miles. There are shelters open all throughout the state of Florida. In your county, there's shelters that are in higher ground and that are hurricane proof. So if you don't want to get on the interstate, you don't have to. And there's a wide variety of options. So if you are in one of those surge prone areas, take action now. We have all day today. as we get into tomorrow, you're going to start seeing effects most likely in Wednesday afternoon.
And in fact, Governor, I was down in Florida yesterday, and I know that a lot of the stores are running out of water. The gas stations are running low on gas. A lot of people who were impacted by Helene actually lost their cars. And so there are lines out the door at car rental places for people trying to get out. And as well, you've got your emergency services people, and the cops are going door to door in these A-zone evacuation areas, saying you've got to get out. Because once this storm hits, you guys are not going to be able to go and save them. They've got to save themselves by getting out now, right?
Yeah, and so on the transportation, because you raise a good point, the counties are providing transportation for folks that don't have it. And then the state has entered into an agreement with Uber. So if you need a ride to a shelter, you can go on
That's
Uber.
crazy.
You know, there's
awesome.
a code for Milton Relief. And so take advantage of that. Absolutely. And you should do that. But yes, you run from the water and you hide from the wind. You know, if we end up with a Category 3 storm, most of the places in Florida, particularly with our building codes, if you hunker down, in and of itself, you'll probably be okay. But the water, you just can't contend with Mother Nature. If you have 10 feet of that surging in, it is incredibly...
Why is that crazy? Think. We have built our infrastructure in such a car reliant way that the government has no mechanism of like continuously evacuating people in large quantities unless it is a private company that also is deregulated and outsources its fucking labor to like private contractors. So it's like outsourcing on top of outsourcing. The government is outsourcing this to a private company that has no means of like providing adequate care in this moment. It is crazy. It is a complete collapse of the system, born out of something that is incredibly predictable.
Destructive. It is not something that you want to mess with. So there are options for you. You have time to be able to do it, and make sure that you are safe in your family. And oh, by the way, the pets too. All counties and shelters, they have at least one pet-friendly shelter. We've actually evacuated some of the pet shelters where you've had abandoned pets. We've moved them to safer shelters in other parts of the state. So there's contingencies for all this stuff. We're going to have damage. People are going to lose homes. We're going to have businesses. We're going to have destruction of infrastructure. But we can fix all that. You can't fix if you decide to stay in 10 feet of storm surge and you die.
You've mastered the process there. Everybody gives you credit for it because, you guys do such a great job with handling this. But we're learning that FEMA now is reporting that there's a severe shortage of disaster workers. This is also coming with, they're saying they're going to need more money. They may run out of money in November. So what are your thoughts on that? And are you guys set in Florida to be able to cover your people, even if FEMA won't have the money?
Well, we have
a similar process that we are experiencing happened with the Veterans Affairs in the United States of America. Many people wanted to privatize it. They kept pointing to how much money it was costing for the Veterans Affairs to operate, the VA to operate. Why did it cost more money than like regular insurance? Because there was the entirety of people who need VA, need that medical assistance, are deeply sick. Okay. They are in deep need of medical assistance. Okay. So there is no healthy pool in a normal insurance pool. There's no healthy pool to fucking leverage against that buy into the program. So as wars continued, as the war on terror continued, and the number of people that needed medical assistance grew, they were like, well, we just don't have enough money for it. We got to privatize this shit. Okay. And the same is happening for FEMA. Climate change worsens. natural disasters worsen, and we're like, oh, well, we just don't have enough money. FEMA's running out of money. Okay, fund it. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean FEMA's running out of money, dude? We need it. What else are you supposed to do? Let people die? What the fuck's happening?
We have what we need right now. And so FEMA, we work with them. Some of the urban search and rescue, a lot of those people are in Florida anyways, but we're also bringing them in from around the country. We're also working with DOD to supplement the fuel mission. So we have all our requests have been honored pre-storm, and we anticipate after the storm. I don't know what Congress is going to have to do going forward, but I will want, because Steve also raised a good point about the fuel. So the fuel situation is in Florida. It's not a supply issue, it's a distribution issue because the stations are running through it faster than they normally do. We have Florida Highway Patrol escorting these fuel trucks into the gas stations. We have 1.5 million gallons that are either in Florida or en route in reserve. Our port of Tampa is still open. It's still going to be receiving fuel. So I think it's more of just when they run out, you got to replenish it. But we have stocked spare fuel in the state of Florida, and we'll continue to do that leading up to the storm. And we anticipate you could have some major interruptions at the port of Tampa, which is one of the places where we get a lot.
Didn't Trump restrict FEMA funding? Okay, that's for later, but one of the funniest parts about the story with respect to like FEMA's taking all of our resources and giving it to migrants instead, or whatever the fuck people are saying nowadays, is that Donald Trump actually literally did do that. So there's disaster relief. There's a bunch of different buckets that FEMA operates on. Okay, disaster relief is totally separate. And the problem here is that the disaster relief funds are actually being diminished, and they have a shortfall in terms of labor. Okay, so the idea that they're giving money to the illegal immigrants is objectively false. What some people that have created this talking point know is that FEMA also does have money for immigration, okay, specifically immigration. And what's funny about this process is that the only person that has actively taken funds away from FEMA, like disaster relief funds away from FEMA in an effort to fund detention centers, is Donald Trump. He did that at a time when like hurricanes were fucking destroying the American mainland, destroying Puerto Rico. Donald Trump took away FEMA funds. Also, Mike Johnson has said that there is no rush for Congress to approve hurricane relief. We'll be back in session immediately after the election, the House Speaker said, of waiting until November for Congress to vote on emergency funding. Cool stuff overall. If you want to know how bad, like, I shit on Democrats all the time on this broadcast, as you guys know, and they definitely do deserve to be shitted on. But goddamn, the other side of the fucking equation is just so comically evil. Like, just pure graft across the board, just legitimately evil.
A lot of our fuel from, and so we will work around that.
Also, Michael from Pennsylvania correctly pointed out something here that I saw in the chat earlier.
Being up to the,
I thought Florida was a anarcho-capitalist. I thought.
By the way, FEMA's out of money.
Right.
We're going to need.
I thought Florida was an anarcho-capitalist dystopia. And I'm hearing now that there's a lot of government intervention happening
is still open. It's still going to be receiving fuel. So I think it's more of just when they run out, you got to replenish it. But we have stocked spare fuel in the state of Florida, and we'll continue to do that leading up to the storm. And we anticipate you could have some major interruptions at the Port of Tampa, which is one of the places where we get a lot of our fuel from. And so we will work around that as needed.
Governor, I know Kamala Harris called you selfish. She said she's tried to contact you to talk to you about hurricane relief. And I know that you've said, I think you said she didn't try to contact you. We want to get your response. But first, listen to what she said. Well, we don't have the sound, but she said, you know, moment of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone calls himself a leader, says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now and playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations. These are the height of emergency situations.
He literally declined calls until like the very last moment. It's pretty funny. Like, there's no politics in this situation, man. But we're so fucking stupid as a country that we do. We're like, nah, we're going to make hurricanes political. We're going to make hurricane relief and recovery efforts political. So dumb. So stupid. It's awesome. Fuck it. I mean, we are a dying empire.
It's just utterly irresponsible, and it's selfish, and it's about political gamemanship. What's your response?
Well, I think she should look in the mirror. We've been on an emergency footing for 2 weeks straight, round the clock, 24/7. We've been working, my office, our Division of Emergency Management, helping people prepare for Hurricane Helene, helping effectuate rescues of people after Hurricane Helene, helping people pick up the pieces of their lives after Helene, and then have to also turn around and prepare for major impacts and maybe even more impacts from Hurricane Milton, be able to have rescue personnel ready to help people, and then, of course, help with the power restoration, all these things to do. So that's been my sole focus. My focus has not been on dealing with Kamala Harris. I saw the news report. I didn't know she tried to contact me. But I'd also say it's not about you, Kamala. Right. It's about the people of Florida. My focus is exactly where it should be. And I can tell you this. I've worked on these hurricanes under both President Trump and President Biden. Okay. Neither of them ever tried to politicize it. She has never called on any of the storms we've had.
Okay, this is a moment where I will defend Kamala Harris. There you go. Wee woo, lib alert. Is there a little bit of politics going on in terms of like hurricane recovery and relief? Certainly. Kamala Harris is the vice president. Ron DeSantis refused calls from Joe Biden too. Like, what the fuck are you talking until the very last moment? And it's not like Kamala Harris was like running around being like, wow, Ron DeSantis ain't picking up my phone call. What a bitch. They asked her. They directly asked her when she was getting off the plane. She was like, Madam Vice President, what do you, what are you going to do in terms of the partnership and collaboration with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis? And she was like, we've been calling him. He ain't picking up. And what's really funny about that is that after that fucking thing hit the news wire, he did pick up the phone call. It took pressure from the fucking vice president that's currently the vice president that is running for president to chirp about it for this fucking dipshit to pick up the phone call. It's insane. It is actually fucking insane. I don't care. This is politics. These are people's lives. It's like, okay, bitch, then why were you fucking not picking up the phone? What do you mean? What do you fucking mean? This is they're trying to make it political. Dumbass, dude. Like I said, it wasn't just that he avoided the phone calls from Kamala Harris. He avoided phone calls from Joe Biden, too.
since she's been vice president until apparently now. Why all of a sudden is she trying to parachute in and inject herself when she's never shown any interest in the past? We know it's because of politics. We know it's because of her campaign. I have zero time to...
Okay, by the way, he's directly admitting that he didn't pick up the phone call after lying and being like, I didn't see it. I didn't know about it. He is openly admitting that due to politics, he does not want the sitting vice president to call, which, by the way, doesn't even matter because he also refused the president's phone calls as well. Just so you understand. He's literally like, I'm not going to give her a fucking W here. That's incredible. Good stuff, man. This is going to backfire. I mean, people are going to die.
Entertain these political games. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to prepare and respond to what may be one of the most damaging storms in the history of the United States. So she says focusing on protecting your people is selfish. I think she ought to look in the mirror.
And right now, Governor, just to conclude, you have what you need from the federal government, as well as you feel like you have the resources in place. Is that correct?
Every request we've made, and I've been in contact with the president. I've been in contact with the FEMA director. You know, it's interesting. Harris is not even in the chain of command.
Yeah, what is she
has
even
no
doing?
role in this. I mean, the idea that I should be like worrying about her when I'm focused on the task at hand is just, quite frankly, absurd. So yes, all of our requests have been answered.
I do want to remind people. That, like, Kamala Harris didn't voluntarily bring up this information. Once again, not to defend the girl boss here, but they asked her. Okay? They directly asked her. The media asked her, and she was like, we called. I directly called as well. He didn't pick up. So it's kind of bullshit.
We have marshaled all state resources that are available to us. It's going to be a very robust response, but it's going to be a lot of damage, and we're bracing for that. I'd ask everyone to keep us in your prayers. We know we're going to get hit, but hopefully we can pray that this storm will weaken and do the least amount of damage possible.
All right, Governor.
Absolutely.
We'll
Great
talk to you
job
again
out
soon.
there.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Famously,
Kamala Harris is blasting Donald Trump for
the vice president has no power and is not a part of the chain of command until I want to make an argument about how powerful she is and how much she used that power to fuck up the country.